What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. We're a little bit under the weather today, but we're going to power through for you guys anyways because there's still lots of great information to get you guys here this offseason for your Dynasty Fantasy Football rosters. And today, what I wanted to talk about specifically was going to be contending teams, which type of running backs you should be buying on those rosters, and why you should be buying those running backs based on where those guys are being drafted currently in underdog best ball drafts in comparison to their current dynasty ADP. So with that being said, we got a lot of good information like I mentioned, so let's not waste any more time today. Let's hop right into this video and let's start talking about my first running back. Now, the first player that I want to talk about is going to be Derrick Henry, the running back for the Baltimore Ravens. And currently over on Keep Trade Cut, he is being valued as the running back 19, but in underdog drafts, he is being drafted as the RB9 for the 2024 season. So that is a difference of about 10 spots in ADP. And Henry, he's going into his 30-year-old season. So obviously, because of his age, many people are fading him in the dynasty community. However, this is a Ravens football team that was number one in rushing attempts last year. They were number one in rushing yards, also while being a top 5 team in rushing touchdowns. So Henry, he's had double-digit touchdowns every single season since 2018, and this is a Ravens team that will be one of the best rosters he has played on in that stretch. So really, other than the age, there are no other worries with Henry because even his efficiency numbers were solid last year. He posted top 10 numbers in yards created, evaded tackles, breakaway run rate, dominator rating, rushing yards, and total touchdowns. So because of that, Henry is one of the best buys you can make as a contending roster. And yes, he may be a little bit older, but if you are a contending team looking for a plug and play running back one, you're looking for that running back one production on your rosters, especially while you're making a run at the championship, there may not be a better buy in all of Dynasty than Derrick Henry this offseason. Now, moving on to our second player here, I do want to talk about Alvin Kamara, the running back for the New Orleans Saints. And looking at his Keep Trade Cut ranking, he is the running back 29 in Dynasty, but he is being drafted as the running back 17 in underdog drafts. So that is a 12-spot ADP difference, showing you how valuable he is this year going into the 2024 season. And age, it's going to be a common theme for a lot of the running backs that we talk about today. But outside of the age, Kamara hasn't been super efficient on the ground over the last couple of seasons. The difference for Kamara is that he doesn't need to be efficient to provide value for our Dynasty rosters because most of the damage that he's done for our rosters has been through the air in the receiving game. Now, Kamara was a top 3 running back in terms of fantasy points per game in 2023. He averaged 17.9 fantasy points per game, and that was due to him being second in targets, second in receptions, and 6th in receiving yards. He is a PPR machine in the Saints offense, and on top of the receiving workload, he was still a top 10 running back in red zone touches and overall opportunity share, so he's still seeing the volume that we want out of a running back as well. Now, some people will worry about Kendre Miller. He's been getting a lot of hype this offseason. We've even talked about him on this channel, and they'll worry about him taking some of the early down work where Kamara needs some more efficiency. However, even if he does take some of that early down work, Kamara could still find himself seeing that heavy receiving workload, and if he does, he could still provide you low-end RB1, high-end RB2 numbers during the 2024 season. So the next guy that we're going to talk about here is going to be Aaron Jones, new running back for the Minnesota Vikings, and he is currently being valued as the running back 36 on Keep Trade Cut, but in the underdog drafts, he is being drafted as the running back 18. So that is an 18 spot difference, and by far the largest difference that we will have in any running back here in this video today. And just like Henry, Aaron Jones, he's going into his 30-year-old season, so age is a factor for fading him. However, I do think that many dynasty managers are worried about the injury-riddled 2023 season from Jones, where he did deal with a knee and a hamstring injury for the most of the year. And although injuries this late in their career are often troubling, Jones still came back in the second half of the season. He averaged 14.2 fantasy points per game for the Packers, and he especially looked good in the NFL playoffs, totaling 653 total yards in his last 5 games. Now, Jones was also a top 20 running back in target share, yards per reception, yards per route run, true yards per carry, and yards per touch, showing that he is still an upper tier receiving and rushing weapon out of the backfield. And going to a new system here in Minnesota throws some uncertainty in the mix, but Minnesota needed a running back and is friendly for receiving backs, meaning Jones could still see some PPR points here in Minnesota. And although Jones's best years may be behind him at this point, that doesn't mean that he still can't provide you RB2 numbers like he is being drafted to do so over on Underdog Fantasy, and he is probably a very, very affordable option for you on contending teams, where in the dynasty landscape, Jones is being left for dead. Now, the next player we'll talk about is going to be David Montgomery, running back for the Detroit Lions. And David's keep trade cut rank is currently the running back 26. His underdog ranking is the running back 19. So still being drafted in the top 20. That's a 7-spot difference in the ADPs. And David Montgomery had an excellent 2023 season, posting 1,015 rushing yards and 13 total touchdowns, while averaging 14.8 fantasy points per game, which was good for the 15th in the league. Now, the reason why many are fading him, though, is because of Jahmyr Gibbs. And in the dynasty community, we tend to fade one player at the expense of boosting another. And this is probably the case with David Montgomery here. Detroit hasn't shown us why these two can't coexist next to each other and both provide value for our dynasty teams. I mean, they did it in 2023. And Detroit was one of only 7 teams with 500 or more rushing attempts in 2023. And they led the NFL in rushing touchdowns, which was part of David Montgomery's calling card. Not only that, they also have one of the best offensive lines in football, and Detroit is likely to be in many favorable game scripts in 2024 that will benefit the running game and David Montgomery as a whole. And while he is the less exciting of the two backs, he does fit the bill as their early grinder and their goal line back, so he could still have some value in that type of aspect. And because of that, David Montgomery could have another double-digit touchdown season here on tap during the 2024 season. And even if Gibbs is involved a little bit more in this offense, which we do want to see that for dynasty purposes, I think David Montgomery can still provide us RB2 numbers, even if it's just on the low end. You're not paying that in your dynasty leagues, and if something were to ever happen to Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery has elite RB1 upside in this offense. Now, the next guy on this list for us is going to be James Conner, the veteran running back for the Arizona Cardinals, and his current KTC ranking is the running back 39, so he is very, very far down those running back rankings in dynasty, and his underdog ranking is the running back 27, so that is a 12-spot difference here in ADP. And James Conner, he had one of the best statistical seasons he's had in a while during the 2023 season, where he posted his first 1,000-yard rushing season, and he added another 165 yards on 27 receptions. He also had 9 total touchdowns, and all of this had Conner averaging 15.5 fantasy points per game, which was 13th best in the NFL. Now, Conner, who many have avoided due to injury concerns, as Conner has never really played a full season and now is going into his age 29 season, is being avoided even further, especially because the Arizona Cardinals, they used a 3rd-round pick on running back Trey Benson out of Florida State. So now we're kind of fading Conner due to new young talent in this backfield. And although this is something that I do believe is going to affect James Conner long term, I do think it's worth noting that Arizona still has 1 year left on Conner's contract, and they could run him into the ground here in 2024 before they eventually hand this backfield over to Benson in 2025 when Conner is no longer with the team. And I say that because Conner hasn't really shown us that he is declining yet. Posting great efficiency numbers in 2024, he was top 10 in true yards per carry, juke rate, evaded tackles, breakaway run rate, rushing yards, and opportunity share, all on a Cardinals team that still found themselves top 10 in rushing touchdowns despite not having Kyler Murray for the majority of the year. So because of that, I do believe that if Arizona does decide to give James Conner the bulk of the workload here in 2024, he could be a massive value for contending rosters, while Trey Benson is sitting waiting in the wings to take over in 2025. And now the last and final running back we will talk about today is going to be Raheem Mostert, the running back for the Miami Dolphins, and his current KTC ranking is the running back 43. His underdog ranking is running back 29, so that is a 14-spot difference in the ADP, and I get it. This feels like one of the least appealing running backs to possibly add to your roster, especially because when you look at the age, Mostert is 32 years old. The Dolphins, they've added Jalen Wright, a dynasty darling in the NFL draft, and they have Devon Achane, who is still expected to lead this backfield in 2024. However, Mostert is being valued in the same tier as guys like Roschon Johnson and Tyler Algier, and I think the difference is neither of those guys had 1,000-yard rushing or 20 touchdown seasons the way that Mostert did for fantasy football teams in 2023. Not even to mention how Mostert was averaging 17.9 fantasy points per game, which was the 4th best in the NFL. And I'm not stoked about Mostert, but at the current acquisition cost, I'm adding him on my bench on any contending roster just in case, because this Miami run game is elite. And all it would take is one injury at minimum to give Mostert a chance again, and that's the worst case scenario for him. Last year, Mostert was top 12 in red zone touches, rushing yards, touchdowns, fantasy points per game, juke rate, evaded tackles, breakaway run rate, and true yards per carry, proving that whether you believe this is truly just the system or the player, he does still have some juice left in the tank. And again, you can fade him if you want. I don't really blame you if you do, but I would be happy to throw him into any of my deals and throw him onto any of my contending rosters for a 3rd-round pick and just set him right there on the bench and see if it turns into anything, because if it does, he could be such a value for your contending rosters, and if it turns into nothing, it's a 3rd-round pick. You didn't really lose anything anyway, so there really is no risk in adding Raheem Mostert to a contending roster. Now, that is all we have for you today, so if you did enjoy this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel and hitting the notification bell. That way you guys never miss a future video when they do come out. And last but not least, make sure you guys are a member of the Discord. We do have a free Discord linked in the description. I'm in there helping you guys with dynasty teams, redraft teams, best ball teams, trades, waivers, anything you need fantasy football related. I got you. It's the best way to get in contact with me. And we have a dope community there of people here at the League FFB that are just looking to talk some balls. So come join the Discord. Like I said, it's free to join, so there is no risk in doing that. And with all of that being said, I have nothing else for you guys today. So I will see you on the next video where I am hopefully sounding a little bit better, because I know this one was a tough listen. But I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, peace out.